Okay, Sean, where do we start with this episode?
I don't know. There's so much to talk about. This Dads of Dagobah episode might be our longest one yet.
Can I just say that's the most fun I've had watching Star Wars since, well, watching Star Wars with you and Little Rock was pretty fun too. But man, what a great episode!
What a great episode. What a great series. What a great season. It's
Is this
just
the
like,
series finale? Is that what you're saying?
well, I don't know. That's a question that needs to be answered.
I know, right? I will say this because I watched this episode early in the morning. I've since had all day to read reactions and gain thoughts and see reviews. So my thoughts may be more polished than usual, as I've had all day to think about it. But I feel like that's what our viewers want.
Yeah, I don't think that's not a but thing to have some thoughts.
But a lot of these thoughts I'll be sharing are not original thoughts. I'll say that. Let's start off.
Well, should we roll the intro? Roll footage.
Oh, okay. Now that we're back, um, what? Where do we start? Do we start with the big stuff?
We start with saying that chapter, is it 16? Chapter 16 of The Mandalorian, The Rise of Skywalker
No,
was,
stop. Shut it.
is that not the name of the episode? I wore I wore the shirt for this episode. The Rise of Skywalker. Let me just say before we say anything else, and please don't interrupt me, is it was just so refreshing to see Favreau and Filoni take who I think most of us can agree was a character that was wronged in the sequel trilogy and bring him back in this episode in all his glory, in his prime, and show us what he truly was meant to be, our good, good, good friend R2D2. R2D2 was wronged in the sequel trilogy, heavily underutilized, and I like the little bromance that we got between R2 and Grogu in this scene.
Well, I mean, people were saying today it looked like R2 was like, I remember your kind. You're the kind that whacked me over the head with your walking cane. Um, See, that's interesting because I thought you were going to say Luke, and I was actually going to disagree with you, but
I knew you thought I was going to say Luke, but that's why I did the misdirection.
you subverted my expectations. We need to talk about, first of all, how in the world did they keep that from us?
How they kept a lot of stuff from us this season, I felt like. I mean, we knew the Ahsoka thing, but um I mean, I guess we knew. Did we know Tamura Morrison was coming back as Boba Fett?
So the only thing, I mean, what was rumored was he was coming back to do a show, but or a movie, and that was canceled.
Yeah.
And so he was already kind of in the midst of being talked about, and he's the obvious choice for anything. So I don't think it was that far of a stretch to be like, and he's Mandalorian, and he was teased in season one.
To me, the Luke Skywalker reveal in this is the same level of mind blowing as the first episode of the first season where we see the child, Baby Yoda, for the first time. Where you're
Yeah.
like, what? Like, what is this show going to be? How did they, exactly what you said, how did they keep this a secret? Um, that this episode was just the capstone on a season that completely took me by surprise with what they're willing to do. I'm like, there are no rules. Like they'll do anything. I mean, I remember at the beginning of so many times during these reviews that we've done talking about like, oh, but they probably won't do that. Like,
They did it.
I will never say that again about The Mandalorian. They might do anything. Who knows?
Yeah, I thought. oh, we're not actually going to see with the little teaser we saw of Boba Fett in the first episode. That's about it. But they'll do a spin-off and we'll get more of it. Oh, okay. Oh, we're not going to see Bo-Katan anymore. Oh, they brought her back. Oh, well, we're not going to go back to Tatooine. Well, we went back to Tatooine. Why do we keep going back to Tatooine? Um,
And I feel like there was a lot of, um, I saw a lot of reactions online of people thinking, and we thought the same thing, that there wouldn't be a Jedi that showed up.
yeah.
That it would just be, okay, we never find out what happened there, or, he never really reached out or connected with anyone. But to have, of all, we talked about who the options were, and the last person I thought it would be was Luke, because I thought there's no way they would do that. That would just like
Suck all the
overshadow everything.
energy. Yeah, I think if we were to go back and watch that review, we both were like, well, Luke's the obvious choice, but also the least obvious choice because he, yes, he's alive, but he, anyway, dominates the story, like we've said before. If you would have asked me before I started the episode what percentage chance there was that a Jedi would actually show up, I think I was sitting around 10% that a Jedi was actually going to show. I thought uh, Din Djarin's just going to take Grogu, and that was it. That was the future of the show. Was them two. No need for Jedi. No need for anything. Just them two. That's where I would have put my money. Then a little X-wing comes flying up, and I'm like, oh shoot, is this Luke?
Okay, at what point did you realize it was Luke? Because even when the X-Wing showed up, I wasn't like, oh, that's Luke. I was like, oh,
Okay,
it's an X-Wing. I thought it was another one of these highway patrolmen. I'm like, there's a Ranger of the New Republic showing up again, being worthless.
okay. I talked to my brother Andrew just about this a few minutes ago. This is exactly how I went the whole 4 minutes, whatever it was. Oh, no way, an X-Wing? No way, it's Luke. It's probably going to be one of these police guys coming back, because I always like to bring back the characters. It's going to be Dave Filoni. Oh, oh, okay, they're coming out. Oh, it's kind of cloaked. Oh, that's interesting. There's no way it's Luke. Oh, they got a green lightsaber. Now, wait a second. Now, Cal Kestis, what color is his lightsaber? Now, what about young Ben Solo or Ezra? What color? And I even turned to Adam like, what color is Ezra's lightsaber? And then, oh, a gloved hand. Oh, okay. Well, I bet you the other hand is also gloved. Oh, no, wait, it's not gloved. Okay, I'm pretty sure this is getting to be Luke, but there's no way it's Luke. Because then I'm like, he's really too small to be Luke. Then hood off, I'm like, oh, freak, it is Luke. Yeah, until the hood came off, I was still kicking against the pricks.
Yeah, I was the same way, not quite that long. Once it was the green lightsaber and stuff, I'm like, there's no way. There's no way they have all black in a cloak with a gloved hand, green lightsaber, and it's Cal Kestis. No, they're not going to do that. But the X-wing, I thought Ranger of the New Republic, and then the cloaked figure, I thought it was Ahsoka. I'm like, oh, did Ahsoka come back? How does she have an X-wing? And as soon as it was a green lightsaber, I'm like, oh, this has got to be Luke. I mean, who else would this be?
I was trying to. I didn't. I mean, yeah, that was awesome. What a great scene.
Well, I mean, the Star Wars is all about the mirror image and the poetry and the how whatever the all the movies mirror each other and things like that. And clearly the the symmetry between this and the Vader Rogue One hallway scene, you're like, this is literally the same thing. Luke's version of that,
Mm-hmm.
which obviously that hallway scene in Rogue One is a fan favorite. I expect that this will be a fan favorite scene for a very long time. Um, so yeah, I will say I told Corey once the show was over, I'm like, I felt like the last 20 minutes of that episode, I like it was overstimulation. I couldn't take it all in. I was like nervous the whole time. Like, am I catching everything? Like, oh, am I enjoying this enough, or am I like, I was
Did I
very
hype it
out of.
up too much for you?
No, not at all. No,
Okay.
I was not expecting that ending at all.
When I was texting you this morning, what did you think?
I thought it was weird that you. said stay off the internet, I thought that that had meant that you had it had been spoiled for you. But then you also said that you had watched it already. And then right before it, I told you I'm turning it on, and you said try to film yourself if you can. I'm like, what? Like, why would I film myself? And I didn't do it. But then I found out that my wife was filming me.
Oh, nice. Good job,
Uh,
Corey.
yeah, so I guess my reaction is on there, but I don't think I had an over the top reaction. It was more of like a, what? Is that Luke? What's going on right now? Um, anyway, yeah, so it was it was definitely I never thought that The Mandalorian or a TV show would get me as hyped and excited with anticipation like one of the feature films would. Like
Oh,
when
yeah.
Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and Rise of Skywalker all came out, I had the feeling that I had today, which was I don't want it to be spoiled and I'm super excited and what's going to happen. And I'm like, why am I getting that way about a 40-minute TV show? But I felt that way. I felt like it was this major event premiere that I was like going to be so excited to like discover and see for the first time. Yeah, it was good.
Um, so where do we go from here? What's the rest of the podcast? What's the rest of the series? What's going on?
Okay, well, I mean, obviously the Luke thing overshadowed a lot for me, but there still was like a crazy amount of stuff that happened in this episode. I mean, from the start of it with the Slave One chasing the Lambda class shuttle. Um,
We know that he is a clone engineer.
we know,
So the
yeah,
patch,
Dr.
I guess the
Pershing.
Camino looking patch is, I don't know, confirmed, but goes along with our suspicions that he is a cloner. We didn't get really much more information than that, though, about what exactly the blood was. I mean, other than cloning the blood, we don't know exactly what it's for, right? So that's
And
still a mystery.
and that is what I think it has to be the future of the series is I'm like there yeah, the Luke thing was like this awesome emotional high for me of the season, but when the dust settled and the show ended, I thought, well, we didn't really get a lot of our questions answered about the Empire's plans, what their purpose, are they cloning? I mean, I think most of us at this point are assuming that the cloning is for Palpatine or Snoke,
Uh-huh.
but we haven't confirmed that necessarily. Uh, anyway, so yeah, I loved seeing the interactions between the Mandalorian group of like Bo-Katan and the other, I don't know what her name is, and then Boba and Din. Um,
Yeah, three different factions of Mandalorians, right?
Yeah, and it was this weird juxtaposition because in chapter, what was it, 9, 10, 11, where he meets Bo-Katan for the first time on Trask, and we find out that Bo-Katan thinks he's from this weird cult
Mm-hmm.
that always keep their helmets on and live the creed like super strict and all that kind of stuff. And it was this idea of Din had to come to terms with there are many different definitions of Mandalorian. And then now we're getting to the point at the end of the show
Boba
where
Fett.
Bo Katan is the one who's like prejudiced against
Oh
Boba
yeah.
Fett. Like he's not a Mandalorian, but Din has already accepted him and said he can keep the armor. So it's like this whole shift in the characters of they've been on this journey and now Bo Katan is like, I didn't like Bo Katan in this episode. I'm like, is she going to become an antagonist? I don't
Well,
really like her.
she's not a good. I mean, in most of her episodes in the Clone Wars, she's not a good person.
That's
I
true.
mean, not calling her an antagonist, but she definitely is not a Jedi. Is definitely not the hero, right?
Right. For sure. Um, but yeah, so it was interesting to see that obviously the the core of the story is Mando himself and his journey of not only his relationship with Grogu, but finding out like discovering for himself what it means to live the creed and be a Mandalorian. And you see that in his own prejudice towards Cobb Vanth. in the first episode of the season, and then with Boba Fett, and how by the end of this now he's accepted Boba Fett, they're allies, and Bo-Katan's like, "You're not a Mandalorian." And I love that they keep calling back to Boba Fett, his voice, like everyone knows his voice because of the clones. And in last week's episode where he's like, let's just say they might recognize my face, like he's the most recognizable man in the galaxy
Yep.
because of the clone army. And I just think that is super interesting, and I like those types of callbacks. But yeah, and then with Mando, back to Mando, his story, him taking off his helmet at the end with Grogu, where it's like the journey he's been on has been very interesting to watch, and I think is kind of a backbone of the rest of the action and the plot and things like that. It's more about his, I would say, emotional journey.
Yeah, they were setting up this big helmet reveal, and I thought we got the all season, and I thought we got the big payoff last week, right? Like that was the big scene where he took off the helmet, and you're like, this is so awesome. I remember like this is my favorite scene of the whole episode, him just taking off the helmet. Well, then today they just raise it up just a little bit more.
And did he shave the mustache off? Why did he? I liked the mustache look.
I don't know.
But anyway, yeah. So that was interesting that the Mandalorians have all this little infighting, and it's just the four of them, and they're infighting already. I'm like, and you're trying to unite all
Flame Mandalore.
Mandalorians?
When do
Like,
you think we're gonna see what happened to Mandalore? Because is it Boba Fett that says it's just a sea of glass right now?
yeah. Well, I mean, to jump ahead to Boba Fett's arc, I mean, he takes him to the light cruiser and pretends to shoot at him, but then is just kind of toying around. And then as soon as they, get onto the light cruiser, he easily
Dispatches the
destroys the
TIE
TIE
fighters.
fighters and jumps off the.
Shooting backwards, by the
Yeah.
way.
He's like, "Oh, you guys are clear?" Or like, "Choo choo choo."
I think he takes 2 shots to take out 2 TIE fighters.
Yeah, and we don't see him again for the rest of the episode. And I had kind of forgotten about him. And you had texted me this morning and said, stay off the internet, but just so you know, there is a post credit scene, so make sure you keep watching, or else I would have turned it off.
Mm-hmm.
And so we see, let's just talk about the post credit scene. We see a little scene that to me raises a ton more questions about the future of this show. So,
Okay, what do you think? What do you think the book of Boba Fett is about?
so my background here, Jabba's palace, Boba Fett comes back. Bib Fortuna somehow survived the Jabba's skiff explosion at the Sarlacc pit. Wasn't he on the yacht?
See, that's what I was trying to figure out, and I don't know. I'd have to watch the movie to see if he's actually
Maybe he
on
wasn't.
this.
But I'm like, okay, this guy has been obviously living high on the hog. His head tentacle has gained some weight. I don't know what that means or what the physiology is for Bib Fortuna, but I thought it was interesting to see Jabba's palace again. He's in charge. Boba kills him without any conversation and takes his place. So the Book of Boba Fett coming out December 2021. So is that season 3 of The Mandalorian, or is there going to be a season 3 of The Mandalorian and also a separate show of Boba Fett coming out at the exact same time, December of next year?
It's. I think it's one of two options. The first and most likely is this is season 3. Boba Fett is season 3 of The Mandalorian. The other option is The Mandalorian season 3 will go on following the Din Djarin timeline, and I guess now the battle over the dark saber and whatnot. And the Boba Fett thing will be a one-time event sort of thing. And I was so interested, so I went and watched the shareholder meeting to try and figure out exactly what Kathleen Kennedy said. She did not say we're following the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda. She just said Dave Filoni and um, other dude,
John Favreau.
Jon Favreau, are have season 3, are working on season 3. So they don't. She doesn't say anything about it.
Yeah, but
But how do you leave this? You didn't wrap up everything in the other storyline. So is that going to be chapter 4? Or the next book is going to be Bo-Katan? I
well,
mean, but that does fit that does fit under an umbrella of Mandalorian, right? All three branches.
I think the post-credit scene clearly sets up that Boba wants no part in
Right.
the storyline anymore. He's
He's
not
got his own
interested in
thing.
hanging. He has done what he promised he would do with Mando, which is secure the child's safety, or
Mm-hmm.
um,
Get it back to him. Yep.
yeah. And now he's done. He doesn't have any debt towards Din anymore. So it's like, all right, he's done. But I find it very hard to believe that they would go pivot a season 3 focus solely on Boba Fett and ignore this entire cast of characters that they've set up
So
and
what do you think it is?
relegate them to supporting cast. That doesn't make sense to me. And yet, I will say that by taking Grogu away, you've now compromised the integrity of the show because
Huh?
the entire crux, the emotional crux of this show and series is Mando and Grogu's relationship.
Yes.
And you've now separated them. And I'm like, I don't know how this is going to work. So, what I think it is I think Mando will still have its own season 3 that Boba Fett will not be a part of. And like what you said, I think the Book of Boba Fett is not going to be a series like The Mandalorian. It is going to be if like maybe even a short film or
Oh,
some
okay.
sort of
Let me say one other thing I learned. Sorry. The two other shows, Ahsoka and I still don't remember the New
Rangers
Republic
of the
one.
New Republic.
Right. Those two, Kathleen Kennedy said, both of these, Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are working in conjunction with these two shows, which will climax in one overarching event. So those, I feel like all three of these shows are meaning towards one thing, right?
Yes, and they will be interconnected
So
and
what
weave in and
if
out.
Mando and um, why am I dropping names?
Cara Dune.
Bo-Katan are
Oh,
going to be in the other show, in the Ahsoka show, or in the New Republic show. Just
that's true.
move them over to a different show. I don't know. I don't know.
I
I
just
don't
think
know.
it's like I said, I will never again say, well, they would never do that
Yeah,
because they'll do anything. But I do think it's just a little bit of a head scratcher if the show called The Mandalorian, that for 2 full seasons has set up that Din is the Mandalorian. He's the titular character. They're going to pivot to, hey, but actually, now season 3, The Mandalorian is Boba Fett.
we
So
never said it was
never said
only
it had to
about
be
him.
that Mandalorian.
You
It's
know,
just
actually,
now it's
Mandalorian is a creed, not
this
specifically just one
Mandalorian. Yeah.
person.
Yeah, so I felt like that there were a lot of questions I had when I saw that. I'm like, okay, is this the same thing as season 3 or is this something separate? And I did hop onto Twitter right after the show and I saw somebody confirming that Pedro is coming back
Oh, I didn't see that.
in some capacity. So I mean, he's not done because some people were speculating that this was just the end of the series and Pedro was done. But he is coming back according to Twitter. I don't know if that's accurate.
So, here's the thing. I have been so pleased with the first two seasons of The Mandalorian with Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau. You know what? The past two seasons have completely made up the sequel trilogy in my mind. Yes, they trashed that whole three movie arc, if you can even call it an arc. Like, what is the arc there? They, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, have done such a great job that all of these questions are not even like worries. They're just like, they'll answer them. They'll fit them in just fine. I have 100% trust in them.
Well, I think you're right. I think I, I love talking in hyperbole, but I'm not trying to be dramatic when I say I think that they have saved the Star Wars franchise because a year ago at this time, even with season 1 of The Mandalorian running, after Rise of Skywalker, I feel like the fan base could not have been more divided.
Uh-huh.
It was so toxic of everybody talking about which camp were you in? Were you in the Last Jedi camp or not in the Last Jedi camp? And the movies didn't work well together. And if you liked one, you couldn't like the other, and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, this is just Disney has a major problem on their hands
Yep.
with just the
And
general
then it
fan base.
got into politics too. Like it got into feminism and all sorts of crazy stuff. You're like Disney need, and that's why I feel like Disney pumped the brakes on the movies, and they're like, let's try something else.
Yeah. And so now to have, I mean, I said this earlier. The season 1 of The Mandalorian is definitely good, but season 2 just like turned the heat up, turned the dial up to 11 on this. I mean, it was,
There's one bad episode. We all know the episode. All the other ones are great.
and that bad episode still had redeeming qualities, like learning that Frog Lady was a Jedi Master. Um, yeah, no, I mean, it just, I, you look at social media, it is overwhelmingly universal positivity from fans right now. Like everyone is happy, which I thought would be impossible to do. But like everyone is happy. I mean, I'm sure there are people that aren't. And if you're one of the people that aren't, leave a comment down below. We like negative comments. But no, it just is amazing what they've been able to do with the TV show. When I thought you're gonna pull the audiences with the movies. The movies have to be the
Poles. The 10 pole.
yeah, and that's just not true.
The new age of media. We are seeing it. If it wasn't Stranger Things, it's The Mandalorian. Because the thing about Stranger Things is fundamentally different. They release all of those episodes at once. It is a mass watch of the. If you want to stay up, you got to watch. You got to binge fast because it's going to get spoiled for you if you don't watch within a weekend, right?
Yeah.
While this is a slow burn, once a week, every Friday.
Oh,
I
it's genius. I mean, it's genius the way they've done it. I hated it at first, and but I mean, it's just it like you said, it is an event, and everybody talks about it, and it has helped the popularity of the show.
They dominate the news cycle every Friday for 8 weeks, 8 Fridays, leading up to Christmas.
Yeah,
What more could you want, right?
yeah. Well, there's
And
also
then
a
we
lot of.
have a movie. What the next movie is? What in 2 years? When's the next movie?
I think it's in 3 years.
The Rogue Squadron is 3 years away.
Oh yeah, I don't know when Rogue Squadron comes out. The Taika Waititi movie is like 2023, I think.
Oh man,
Well, there was still some other cool stuff in this episode. So the Dark Troopers, that whole scene where he only like lets one out and keeps all of them in, I was like, this is insane.
yeah.
When the thing's just like punching his face, and I'm like, oh, I hope that Beskar holds up. Like that was crazy. I mean, his duel with Gideon with the dark saber, and I mean, this whole idea of now
The
there's this
Elder One.
rivalry. It's the Elder Wand, exactly.
Huh? That's what I
Now
should have changed my background to.
he's holding up the dark saber, and Bo-Katan like won't take it. And I'm like, really? I'm like, this is how this is gonna go down?
How awesome that they kept Moff Gideon alive so that he could be the little narrator in the background going, oh, explaining the whole thing to us. Oh, she can't take it. And you're like, oh my gosh. He is so, first of all, Carlos Esposito, if that's his name, is so good at being a bad guy
Yeah.
that, man,
I
So
mean,
fun to watch.
such great moments. I do wish that we would have gotten a little bit more about Moff Gideon's intentions. Like the whole scene where he has the dark saber holding it over Grogu, and he's like, "I can see you have a bond with him. Go ahead and take him." And he's about to go take him. I'm like, "Is this actually happening? There's no way." And then he, sneak attack.
um, I loved. I saw a lot on Twitter today. Maybe you've seen it too. In Rebels, Sabine hands the dark saber to her sister Bo-Katan. Hands it to her. Just says, "This is now yours." And
But they're not
Bo-Katan's like,
sisters.
"Yes, they are."
Bo-Katan and Sabine are sisters.
I thought they were sisters.
No, Bo-Katan is sisters with the Duchess
Oh, that's right. That's
that
right.
dies
All
in
right.
the Clone Wars, and that was like Obi-Wan's lover or whatever.
So Sabine just hands it to her, irregardless of the relationship. Just hands it to her. So people are like, "Now wait a second. Why can't Din just?" Because he's like, find it. I yield it to you."
Yeah.
Like, no, you actually have to beat him. You have to wrestle it out of his hands like Harry Potter does in the Mountain
Yeah, if I
Container.
was Jin, I'd be like, why don't you just like drop kick me right here and I'll fall over and drop
Oh,
drop the
oh, I
saber
dropped it.
and then you go pick it up. Like,
That's part of the story. And then
because
I.
I didn't have to kill Moff Gideon
Mhm.
for it to become mine, so you don't have to kill me, so just fight me and don't hurt me and
I'll
I'll
keep the best
lose.
card on.
Yeah. But I guess it has to, be real, a real fight. I don't know.
Can we talk more about the Dark Troopers? I saw an interesting take about the Dark Troopers. So I need to set up a little bit more about Luke and why it was perfect for Luke to fight the Dark Troopers. Because at the end of Return of the Jedi, Luke tosses his lightsaber aside, right? And is like, "I'm not going to fight anymore." Like Luke has a shift in how he thinks about fighting, right? Then in Battlefront 2, there is a level where you play as Luke and you go to some planet, you're looking for Jedi and Sith relics, and you do have to kill a bunch of stormtroopers, but Luke regrets it. Like, I wish I didn't have to do that. Like, that's not the way I want to live anymore, right? And then we see him in Last Jedi and Force Awakens, where, he shut himself off from the Force and he is not going to go out there and stand against the First Order, you know, but he does that as a ghost, so he doesn't have to kill anyone, right? And so they are saying it's perfect that they have these dark troopers because they're not living. So he can maul them down no matter what, just as easy. I mean, as much as we make fun of the prequels because of how useless the battle droids are, the dark troopers were very useless against a lightsaber. They were cool against Beskar, they were cool against blasters, but as soon as lightsaber shows up, they're like, oh, they're just black battle droids. I mean, they're not cool anymore.
Well, yeah, I had speculated that the Dark Troopers would be made of Beskar and therefore impenetrable from a lightsaber, but I'm kind of glad they didn't do that because I'm like, with this whole army of Dark Troopers, what are they going to do? How are they going to defeat him?
Mm-hmm.
But before Luke showed up, I thought that we were going towards some sort of surprise Rogue One ending where some of these characters were going to die. Like that Cara Dune was going to die and Din was going to die. And I'm like, are they going to kill these characters off? And then, the X-Wing showed up. I'm like, wait, the Rangers of the New Republic are here, so don't worry. They'll save the day.
No police officers.
Seriously.
Bad boys, what you want? What you gonna do? Um, what else? So I just liked how Luke kind of fits into his narrative between Return of the Jedi and Last Jedi.
It gave Filoni and Favreau an excuse to have him be awesome and show the height of his power, but not compromise the character.
Right, right. The Batman, Spider-Man, sort of not kill anyone, sort of superhero.
So
Um,
the last question I have about Luke's appearance, and I'll make a quick comment that when he first reveals and we see that it's Mark Hamill just de-aged, I thought the first reveal, I'm like, it looks pretty good for a TV show. And then the longer the scenes happened and when he would talk, I'm like, oh, the CGI is not that great. But
mhm.
I didn't really care. I'm like, who cares? Like, if anybody is watching this and going, "Oh, the CGI sucks. This episode sucks," I'd be like, "You've missed the point here." Um, so yeah, I was excited to see that Mark Hamill was in the credits,
So
and
they didn't use. So this is what I've learned. They didn't use his body. They used someone else. And yes, as you said, they de-aged him just as they did Tony Stark in those Avengers movies,
yeah,
which is different than how they did Moff Gideon because obviously that guy was dead.
Moff Tarkin.
Sorry, Tarkin. And I feel like it's been what 5 years since Rogue One, and I feel like it looked better for this episode than it did for Rogue One, in my opinion. Even though there were still uncanny valley moments, I still felt like, oh, this looks better than it did, especially with Leia. But anyway,
Yeah, I thought Tarkin looked better than Leia in Rogue One, but so Luke now is taking Grogu. I mean, we get this very poignant scene of Grogu and Mando having to say goodbye. He takes off the helmet, um, and promising like, "Hey, I'll see you again, like I promise." So I'm like, is that the show going to reunite us at some point? But I did think this whole time that we're having this goodbye moment, I'm like, I don't know if this is in the best interest of the show. Like, I really struggled with that story choice of we're really going to ship Grogu off with Luke, and then in the next season, let's assume that there is a Mandalorian season 3 that's different from the Book of Boba Fett, and it's still following Mando. Are you telling, is Luke going to continue to cameo, or is this like we're never seeing Luke again?
I don't think we're seeing Luke again. But
Are
I'm
we ever seeing Grogu again?
yes, we will see Grogu again.
Well, then how is that? He's going to show up to the Jedi Temple to go visit him, but Luke's off somewhere else, and we just see Grogu. I guess that's possible. Yeah.
It I don't know. I would love to see the Jedi Temple. I would love to see what that's like.
Well, and I even in the short scroll through Twitter that I had before we started filming this, clearly the buzz of around the fandom is Grogu safe? When your background, when the Jedi Temple is destroyed after the fall of Ben Solo, where is Grogu in the aftermath?
Does he survive Order 66 and the Jedi Temple destruction?
Well, I've even seen people say, "Well, this just is fine. This is fine because this sets up episode 10 of the Skywalker saga actually being about Grogu." So we can now, after forget Rey and Finn and Poe, you can go hundreds of years after that, let them all die off, and Grogu would be in his, teens by that point, a couple hundred years old,
That's true.
and we still have the connective tissue where he can talk about his old, you know, his old buddy Mando, and he's a Mandalorian Jedi. And anyway,
Well, it's just how Yoda's being used in the High Republic books. Yoda's going to be in those because he's the connective tissue, as you said, between High Republic and uh, not Old Republic, New. I don't even know what the prequels,
yeah,
the end of the Republic. Are Ben Solo and Grogu friends?
yeah.
They're going to be at the temple at the same time, the Jedi Academy at the same time.
I'll tell you who are not friends, who should have been friends: Ben Solo and Chewbacca.
Yeah.
Chewbacca hates that guy. But you have to assume that in Ben Solo's childhood, he was probably close with Chewbacca.
Yeah. Uh huh. You would assume so. Uh, so many fun things, so many unexpected things. We want to hear from you guys. What did you think of the episode? Did you hate it? What is the Book of Boba Fett?
Yeah, what do you want to see the show do from here? Do you want to continue following Din and Bo-Katan
I do.
in redeeming Mandalore, or
Yes.
do you want to see Boba Fett take over
Both,
the criminal
both,
underworld.
both. Because I was sad. I'll say this to close it out. I was sad when Boba Fett left. I was like, man, every scene with Slave One and Boba Fett just made me so happy. It's so fun, and I was kind of sad. And like you said, kind of forgot about him because a whole big other thing was happening. So I'm happy that they put in that little post credit scene. So yeah, what is going to happen? What do you want to see? And subscribe if we earned it. Give us a like. Give us a follow on Twitter. Not that we tweet that much, but we might. So, whenever I feel like switching my account over, I'll tweet something out. But, yeah. And until next time, when is next time? What are we doing next? A New Hope?
Yeah, technically our schedule is to do what we would change about A New Hope. I mean, it's been literally months since we did a video like that. Um, and I have to say, this is kind of an end of an era. This has been really fun and nice to have a weekly event to do and talk about Star Wars. And so um, I'll be kind of sad because we're about to go into another Star
so,
Wars
so
drought, for lack of a better term.
Bad Batch, right? Is this spring?
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, are we going to do a weekly review of Bad Batch?
No,
Probably not.
no.
So, yeah, but yes, we will continue on the Dads of Dagobah with I think our probably our next video will be a New Hope review.
I mean, I gotta watch that movie again. JK, JK.
I mean,
Um,
watching it now will have a lot more context when you think about uh well, I guess no, because it would be yeah, no, it would have more context.
Really, we should go back and rewatch episode 3 and see if we can find Grogu in the background
That's what we
somewhere.
should do. And we should also be watching Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and Rise of Skywalker looking for Grogu.
That's right. He's gonna be around. He's gonna be special editions are gonna come out. They're gonna be putting them everywhere.
Seriously. Yeah, it's interesting that we've reached a point now in 2020 that I'm like probably the sequel trilogy is I mean, I still like it. I won't hate on the sequel trilogy. It's still valuable. I like the sequel trilogy. Some great moments, some great characters we got. But yeah, I don't know what it is that the Mandalorian. I'm like, this is inject this into my veins. This is exactly what I want out of my Star Wars
This
right
is how
now.
you do it. And
Yeah,
all started this. I mean, just 8 weeks ago, we were fighting a crate dragon. That was an awesome episode.
yeah, and we could have gotten more Cobb Vanth. I wouldn't have been mad at that.
Yeah. Anyway,
Anyway.
we're going on. We're rambling now.
All right, guys, thanks for watching. Until next time, we don't know. It probably won't be next week. Merry Christmas and happy holidays to everyone. Hope you have a safe and happy holiday season. Stay safe out there. And until next time, we have spoken.
This is the way.
We'll see you next time on the Dads of Dagobah.
See ya.
Bye.